It's a beautiful day in this neighborhood, a beautiful day for a neighbor. Would you be mine? Could you be mine?
In 1968, children's television was a carnival.
You think that somehow his messages are going to be very simple, but there's profound. He was like a philosopher.
Talking dogs, costume creatures, bright colors, fast cuts, every second racing to hold a child's attention.
This is for me? Very nice of you. This is Mr. Rogers' t-shirt.
There's the trolley.
Then, one channel over, silence. A man walks in, hangs up his coat, changes into a cardigan, and slowly ties his sneakers. He looks into the camera and quietly says, "Hello, neighbor."
Welcome, neighbor. I'm glad we're together again.
Every rule of television said this shouldn't have worked. Yet while everyone else chased children's attention,
please welcome Jeffrey Erlanger. I'm so glad this.
Fred Rogers quietly earned their trust.
It's you I like. It's not the things you wear.
And almost nobody realized why. Why did one quiet man feel so different? To understand what he was doing, you have to remember what surrounded him.
Dr. Blinken.
He's a man of great knowledge. Also, head of my anti-smog pollution and witch committee.
None of these shows were bad. But look at what they all assumed, that a child had to be grabbed every second or they'd be gone. Now put that man back on screen. He isn't performing, he's arriving. Same coat, same song, same shoes.
It's a beautiful day in this neighborhood, a beautiful day for a neighbor.
You must get to Pittsburgh because something is going to happen to you that you've been longing for all your life.
To a room full of programmers who believed children needed to be dazzled, doing the same small ritual every single day was almost radical. Here's what nobody noticed at the time. That repetition wasn't laziness or a low budget. A child who knows exactly what happens next feels safe. And a child who feels safe can finally start to listen. As a child, you saw a man tying his shoes. As an adult, you understand you were watching the first thing many kids ever experienced that was completely, dependably predictable, and that's what changes the meaning of that little ritual. It was never about the shoes. So if the shoes weren't the real reason children trusted him, what was? What if he simply refused to lie to children? Every other show in that carnival shared one belief. Children are simple. Keep it loud, keep it moving, keep it easy. Fred believed something the industry found almost strange, that children can tell the difference between real and fake instantly.
Kids are not easy to fool. They're much brighter than most people give them credit, and they're hip to catch on to any kind of real phoniness, are they not?
I really think that the most important thing that we do is being honest.
That was his design principle. Not entertain them. Don't lie to them. And he took what reached children with deadly seriousness. He once spoke, almost pained, about a radio host in the Mid-South imitating his gentle voice to tell children to do dangerous things, thinking he was joking to adults, forgetting who was really listening.
There is one person on radio that really bothers me, though. I've heard it's somewhere in the Mid-South, and he tells children in my voice to do such things as get their mother's hairspray and their father's cigarette lighter and put them together. And he thinks that he's talking to adults, but he's really talking with children.
Most hosts never thought that hard about the trust a child places in a familiar voice. Fred thought about almost nothing else. As a child, you just believed him. As an adult, you realize how rare that was, a grown-up on television treating your feelings and your intelligence as real. And that reframes every calm sentence he ever spoke. It wasn't a performance of kindness, it was respect. But respecting children was only the beginning, because his next choice went against every instinct television had. Why would anyone put silence on television? Television has one rule above all others: never stop. Dead air is the enemy. Fred did the opposite on purpose. He let moments breathe, he watched a fish tank, he waited, and he was blunt about why.
A lot of people who have allowed me to have some silence, and I don't think we give that gift very much anymore. I'm very concerned that our society is much more interested in information than wonder, in noise rather than silence.
He believed the pauses were doing the teaching.
It's about the things that matter to me.
Yeah.
It's about the white spaces between the paragraphs, which I think are more important than any of the text, because it allows you to think about what's just been said. I had a professor one time, I think he's on page 20 or 22. His name was Dr. William Orr.
Right.
And he said, you know, Fred, there's one thing that evil cannot stand, and that is forgiveness. And you notice the rest of the page is blank.
Yes.
It needs a lot of time to think about that.
Every other show filled the silence so a child couldn't drift. Fred left the silence so a child could think. As a child, you didn't notice the quiet. You just felt calm. As an adult, you understand he was handing children something almost no one gives them anymore: room. Space to feel a feeling before the next thing arrived. And that changes what those slow stretches really were. They were the lesson. And yet quiet wasn't his boldest decision, because Fred was willing to look at the parts of childhood everyone else looked away from. What if he refused to look away? The rest of children's television had a strategy for anything uncomfortable. Hide it. Keep it light. Fred walked straight toward it. He refused to hide difference. When a young boy in a wheelchair, Jeff Erlanger, came on, Fred didn't pretend not to notice the chair. He asked, directly and gently,
Mr. Rogers?
Hey, Jeff. I'm glad to see you.
Hi.
Thank you very much for coming by. Can you tell my friends what it is that made you need this wheelchair?
Sure. Well, when I was about 7 months old, I had a tumor, and it broke the nerves to tell my hands and legs what to do.
I see.
Then he sang to him that it's you he likes, not the fancy chair.
It's you I like. It's not the things you wear, the way you are right now.
He was just as matter-of-fact about bodies. Where other programs got squeamish, Fred gave children a plain little song about how everybody is different and everybody is fine.
But there's a song called Everybody's Fancy that I sing. Some are fancy on the outside, some are fancy on the inside. Everybody's fancy, everybody's fine. Your body's fancy, and so is mine.
No embarrassment, no lowered voice, just the radical idea that a child has nothing to be ashamed of. As a child, you saw a man being kind to a boy in a chair. As an adult, you understand you were watching a child taught that a body, a difference, is nothing to look away from. And that changes the scene entirely. It wasn't sweetness. It was instruction most adults never received. He'd broken almost every rule of the medium. But one afternoon, beside a small plastic pool, he was about to do the boldest thing of all. 2 men, 1 pool. What were children actually watching? To a child, it was nothing. 2 friends, a hot day, cooling their feet in the same little wading pool. To an adult who knows what year it was, it's one of the quietest, bravest images in television history. In the 1960s, public pools were a battleground of segregation. Black Americans turned away, pools drained rather than shared, and here on national television, a white man invites a black man to put his feet in the same water and helps dry them. Fred made no speech. He simply did it and let the picture say what a picture says to a child. This is normal. This is what neighbors do. And this wasn't a one-time gesture. He brought the image back years later, making sure no one could mistake it for an accident. Officer Clemmons, Francois Clemmons, later admitted he didn't grasp it at first. As a young black man, he carried his own history with police uniforms and with the meaning of that water.
Growing up, you have a slightly different view of what police officers represent in your community, but your heart will open when Fred explains the positive influence that you can have for young children.
As a child, you saw 2 friends by a pool. As an adult, you understand you were watching a man challenge a nation's prejudice without ever raising his voice. And that changes everything. The gentlest image on television was also one of its most defiant. That was his whole method. Change hearts without a fight. And soon it would be tested in a room built for arguments, the United States Senate. How do you win Washington without an argument? By 1969, public television was fighting for its life. A new administration wanted the budget cut.
But he wanted to cut the budget.
In the midst of all this, Fred Rogers gets to go before Congress, argue for $20 million of funding to sort of solidify PBS.
Clip picture the room. Senator John Pastor, impatient, gruff, running behind. Grown men with prepared statements and hard numbers. And then a soft-spoken man who set his notes aside and simply talked about children, about anger, about the feeling of being told you're liked just as you are. He didn't debate. He didn't posture. He did the one thing that room never expected. He was sincere. and you could watch a hardened man's defenses fall in real time.
Well, I'm supposed to be a pretty tough guy, and this is the first time I've had goosebumps for the last 2 days.
By the end, Pastore, who had never seen the show, told him it looked like he'd just earned his $20 million. Clip, as a child, you never knew this happened. As an adult, you understand what it proves. Empathy can be more persuasive than any argument, and the calmest voice in the room was the most powerful. And that changes how you see the man in the cardigan. The gentleness was never weakness. So if he won the Senate with nothing but sincerity, why do so many people still underestimate Mr. Rogers today? Why does he feel different when you're grown? Here's the strange thing so many adults report. You go back to Mr. Rogers decades later, as a parent after a loss in a hard season, and it's not the same show you remember. The words haven't changed. You have. People who studied him keep reaching for the same word.
You think that somehow his messages are going to be very simple, but they're profound. He was like a philosopher.
Because what sounded simple was never simple. In that same conversation, a married couple joked that his words belonged in every marriage.
Now, every man, every married man, should have that in his pocket, because when you're having a fight at 3 o'clock in the morning, in which most of your vocabulary is, oh, let me get this straight. I see. You can be as angry as you want to with the love of your life, and you could just then end it with, well, you know what? It's good to talk.
Clip advice for preschoolers, quietly doubling as advice for grown-ups. Even his idea that you're special simply because there's no one else exactly like you sounds sweet to a kid, until you're 50, worn down, and finally hear it.
You are my friend, you are special. You are my friend, you are the only one like you in the daytime.
As a child, you heard comfort. As an adult, you hear philosophy. The same sentences, carrying a depth you couldn't reach yet. And that changes everything. It wasn't written down to children, it was written to the adults those children would become, which makes you wonder what he thought he was really doing up there.
Please welcome Jeffrey Erlanger. I'm so glad
Why did he think television was a calling? Fred never treated the camera like a toy or fame like a prize. He treated the screen like something close to sacred.
What ultimately matters is what we do with it. I feel that those of us in television are chosen to be servants.
Servants, not stars. That single word explains every strange choice he ever made. The silence, the honesty, the slowness, the hard subjects. He wasn't trying to be watched, he was trying to be useful, and that sense of duty made him quietly fearless. This was a man who once climbed into an enclosure with Coco the gorilla, 1,000 pounds of animal, and sat calmly while she untied his shoes, the way the children at home untied theirs.
And actually went into the cage with Coco the gorilla.
And we both have noses and eyes.
And Fred was brave. I don't know if I'd want to go in a cage with a 1,000-pound gorilla. With one swipe, he could knock you over.
Clip people kept using the same surprised word about him, brave. As a child, you saw a gentleman. As an adult, you understand you were watching someone who believed he had a job to do and did it with everything he had. And that changes the sweater and the sneakers completely. They were the uniform of a man on a mission. But if he saw himself as a servant, who exactly was he serving? Because it was never only the children. Why did he talk about things other adults avoided? Most children's television tried to help kids forget their problems. Fred Rogers believed children deserved help understanding them. While the rest of the dial ran on fantasy and escape, Fred turned toward the real things a child actually feels. Anger, fear, jealousy, divorce, death, loneliness. He never pretended those feelings didn't exist. He gave children the words to hold them. Listen to how he handled the hardest one, rage.
What do you do with the mad that you feel?
Now think about what you just heard. In an era when no one on children's television discussed emotional regulation, when the advice for an angry child was usually settle down, Fred was calmly teaching kids that a feeling can be named and stopped and survived. He said what he was doing out loud.
If we in public television can only make it clear that feelings are mentionable and managed, we will have done a great service for mental health.
As children, we remembered the songs. As adults, we realized they were emotional life lessons, slipped to us before we knew we'd need them, but perhaps the biggest surprise is that children were never the only audience listening. The children were never the only audience. Why do millions of grown adults cry when they rewatch Mr. Rogers? Hold that question for a moment, because the answer reframes everything. Watch who was actually in the room in 1968. Parents sitting beside their kids, grandparents, teachers who carried his ideas into classrooms the next morning. Fred knew they were there, and when he was asked who his show was really for, he didn't just say little ones.
Mostly preschoolers, but I hesitate to say that because there's many older people who
Absolutely.
The calm wasn't only calming children, it was calming the exhausted parent on the couch. The lessons about anger and honesty weren't only for the 4-year-old, they were for the adult who never got them the first time. As children, we thought he was talking to us. As adults, we realized he was preparing us, quietly raising the grown-ups we would become. And one speech near the end of his life would prove just how far his message had traveled. The speech that explained everything. Near the end of his life, Fred Rogers stood in front of a room full of celebrities and powerful adults and asked them to do something almost no television personality had ever asked before. He asked them to be quiet and to remember.
All of us have special ones who have loved us into being. Would you just take, along with me, 10 seconds to think of the people who have helped you become who you are?
And then he did the unthinkable in a live broadcast. He looked at his watch and he let the silence sit.
All of us have special ones who have loved us into being. Would you just take, along with me, 10 seconds to think of the people who have helped you become who you are? 10 seconds of silence. I'll watch the time.
That wasn't nostalgia. It was gratitude. The same lesson from the neighborhood aimed straight at grown hearts. That you were loved into being, that someone helped you become you, and that remembering them is a kind of love. As children, we admired Mr. Rogers. As adults, we finally understand why. But it points to something stranger still. Something that happens to grown adults the moment they press play again. Why so many adults cry watching Mr. Rogers? Again, something unexpected happens when people revisit Mr. Rogers after 30 or 40 years. They don't remember more, they understand more. Sit a child and an adult in front of the exact same episode and they are not watching the same show. The child sees the puppets, the trolley, King Friday and Lady Elaine, the songs, the make-believe kingdom next door. The adult sees something else entirely. The pauses, the eye contact held a beat longer than any accident. The patience, the honesty, the respect in his voice. Nothing inside the program changed. Not one frame, you changed. And when you changed, everything in this story quietly gained a second meaning. The shoes were never really about shoes. They were a promise that the world would be predictable. The silence was never empty. It was room to feel. The songs were never just songs. They were the first words you ever had for anger and fear and grief. Officer Clemmons wasn't just a neighbor. The Senate hearing was never really about funding. All of it, the whole time, was about you. And here's the thing that finally breaks people. When you're a child, you almost never realize that someone is protecting you while it's happening. You just feel safe. It's only decades later, looking back, that you see the shape of it, that a gentle man spent his life protecting children he would never meet and never once asked for the credit. Maybe that's why so many adults can't watch Mr. Rogers now without their eyes filling. They're not mourning childhood. They're recognizing the adult who quietly helped shape it. And that's why his message may matter even more today than it did in 1968. Why does he feel more relevant today than ever? Why does a man who spoke softly nearly 60 years ago suddenly feel more relevant than ever? Look at the world he was quietly arguing against and look at ours. In 1968, he worried about noise. Today, we live inside it. Constant notifications, endless feeds, information without end, entertainment without pause, attention spans shrinking by the year. And here is this man from another century offering the exact opposite. Silence, patience, listening, honesty, the willingness to slow down and mean it. He isn't relevant again because he changed. He's relevant again because everything around him sped up and left a space shaped exactly like him. As adults, we realized the truth we missed as kids. Fred never changed. The world did. He was always offering the thing we would eventually run out of. And maybe that's why we're finally ready to understand him. The final reveal go back to where we started. Fast television, loud entertainment, costumes and laugh tracks, every second fighting to hold a child's attention, and one quiet man changing his shoes. Here's what he understood that no one else did. He was never trying to keep children's attention. He was trying to earn their trust. And by doing that, patiently, honestly, one small ritual at a time, he did something far bigger than make a television show. He changed how entire generations of adults understood childhood itself. That children are already feeling everything, already watching closely, already worthy of the truth.
It's you I like. It's not the things you wear. It's not the way you do your hair. The way you are right now. The way down deep inside you.
The greatest lesson Mr. Rogers ever taught wasn't hidden in a song, a sweater, or a television set. It was the quiet reminder that every child deserved to be seen, heard, and respected. As children, we felt that without knowing why. As adults, we finally understand what he was trying to teach us all along.